You're listening to the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank this month's premier sponsor, Team Rockstar Fit, the mastermind team that helps fitness professionals and studios add nutrition, fitness, and online coaching to their existing business with tools from Beachbody. Visit teamrockstarfit.com. Hey everyone, welcome along to another week of the Fitness Business Podcast. I'm your host Chantal, and this week I'm speaking to Daniel Nyiri, an entrepreneur who built a $1 million fitness business within 2 years. And his secret to success is also the theme of this week's show. It is all about reading. I asked Daniel to come on and share some advice for those of you who are considering opening up a studio for the very first time. And also he's going to tell us the top books that he recommends that every fitness professional should read on sales, marketing, and leadership. Also coming up in this week's show, I caught up with Jaron Azen, the CEO of One Fit Stop. Jaron recently attended the Idea World Summit, and he joins us today to talk about some technology news from the event. Now, before we get into this week's main interview with Daniel, I wanted to first send out some high fives to every single one of you out there. Why is that? Well, because last week was our biggest ever week of the show. So it seems to me that building your personal brand and learning about member retention are two very popular topics. So thank you so much to everyone who downloaded last week's shows. I also received some really great messages from a number of you, and I know that a lot of you went out and bought Mark's book. So that was awesome to hear. One of the things that I would be super grateful for is if you have time to leave a review on iTunes. I've put a link in the show notes to make it super easy. So if you do have a spare 2 minutes to leave a review, I would be so grateful. And of course, the show wouldn't be possible if it weren't for our amazing podcast partners. So once again, I want to say a big thank you to this week's podcast partner, Team Rockstar Fit. If you want to lead a happy and balanced life with your career in fitness, then Team Rockstar Fit offers mentoring and support to expand your business online with tools from Beachbody. You can earn money out of the trenches. To find out more information, go to teamrockstarfit.com. Daniel Nyiri is the founder and CEO of For You Fitness, a personal training studio franchise based in Tampa, Florida. Previously, he was a professional hockey player, model, and certified personal trainer originating from Budapest in Hungary. In 2011, with just $150 in his pocket, not speaking English and nothing else to his name, he moved to the US after 2 events changed his life forever. Daniel lost his grandparents to obesity, and he survived an injury severe enough to close the door to any potential future in hockey. Now, instead of letting all of that shatter his world, Daniel discovered a new purpose in life, and he decided to pursue a dream to change the world by reducing obesity one person at a time. And by the way, that $150 I mentioned, well, that is now a $1 million fitness business. Here's my interview with Daniel Nyiri. Daniel, that is an incredible story. Now, we were having a chat last week and you said to me that you get up at 4:45 each morning and you read for 2 hours. And I believe that it was about 12 months into owning your business that reading became a part of your daily ritual and it changed everything for you. Can you explain the effect that books have had on your business?
Yes, definitely. And the cool thing is that I did not realize that I should read for a long period of time. So I would put it away and I would come up with excuses that I don't have time for it. But once I picked up and it was, to be honest with you, now I thought of it, and it was the Steve Jobs book when he passed away. And that made me a huge change because it was a giant book. And I read it and what he went through. And I was like, wow, if he did all that, then I can do whatever I want also. So after that, I just learned that how much he reads and how much he read. So I just went into and started buying books that Steve Jobs was reading. So I started studying all those things that he did. And I did the same thing with Elon Musk. And then I picked people who are successful and set amazingly big goals. Even Tony Robbins is one of them, to copy their habits. So that's basically what I did. I analyzed their habits and how much they read and what they read. And then I stumbled upon 2 books. One of them is The Key Persons of Influence, and the other one is The E-Myth. And the Key Person of Influence really showed me how to become literally a key person of influence in my industry where I am, and then how I should go about growing my brand, and then how to pitch myself. So I always have a pitch ready. And then the e-myth really showed me that how I should fire myself of literally everything in the business. And it's a really cool book, and it's really good an audio book too. I read it and I actually listened to it because it really, really walks you through on how to actually run the business instead of owning the business. But the number one takeaway that I would say about my readings every single day, because, people usually say, oh, it's just waste of time. But usually those people who say that are not as successful or they haven't read books for a long time. But the thing is that in the morning when I stimulate my brain, literally just like when you work out, you stimulate your muscles, they grow. So when you keep stimulating your brain, you actually remember things easier, faster. I can quote things from lots of books that I read. I remember almost like I'm at a point when I can remember literally words to word in some of the books, and then at any page, not any page, but like the really memorable things that I read. And then the reason is that because in the mornings, you're sharp first thing in the morning, you're literally, what I realized when I read, I'm really stimulating my brain while I'm reading. And then the cool thing is that I get into that mood and I'm just very sharp for the rest of the day, probably all the way until late in the afternoon. And the book reading, it's just completely changed the business and how I do business, like 100%. And just like you said, the growth was almost unmeasurable in a year-to-year basis.
I think it's interesting, Daniel, and I purposely mentioned that it was about 12 months in that you implemented this ritual of reading. I think it's important for everyone to understand that in that early stages, you hadn't learnt about the importance of, as you say, firing yourself from the business. And you were one of these people, like so many personal trainers are, that were hands-on in the business and felt that you needed to do absolutely everything in order to make ends meet and to run a successful business. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that, you didn't go from $150 to $1 million business overnight. It was really a learning process for you. So I was hoping that you might be able to actually share with us, from what you know now, from your experience, what would you say are the top 3 things that every fitness professional should actually do before they open their very first studio?
Definitely. And yes, I've been there. So just so to clarify that before I start to making it, when I start firing myself, all the way up until that time, I think we already talked about it, but I was working the 5 jobs at the same time, no sleep, no going out, no friends, no nothing at the very beginning, just because I wanted to scale my business. But I couldn't scale it anymore because I reached a cap because I was working in the business instead of on the business. And really, and I mean, if you think about it, those 2 hours that I spent reading books, when I first did it, the very first time, I felt so guilty because I was like, I could have done so much work. And then I finally realized that it was an investment and how much it actually helped me. Now I look back and I laugh at it, but back then it was kind of tough. And the 3 things, so I would recommend is, well, first of all, personal trainer should ask the questions, do I want to own a gym or I want to work in the gym? And it's the 2 things, it's way different things, because usually what happens, where the trouble starts, is when your clients, your friends, your family members start telling you that how amazing you are at training clients, and you start believing them, because you are amazing, that's what you do. And then they tell you should open your own studio. So that's when you step in and open a studio and you have no idea what's next. So what next to do is, first of all, read great number of books on business, not fitness, on business, because you already know fitness. I mean, I would hope so. But you should really focus on the business side of it, especially if you have not read a single business book. You should probably start with accounting first, and then just to have the basics of it. And then definitely get into the E-Myth that I was talking about. It's a must-read book for literally anyone who wants to start their own business. And then once you read the E-Myth, you will actually decide by the end of the book if this is really for you or not. I mean, I 100% guarantee you that. And then and I'm not really trying to sell my book, but the thing is, in my book, when I actually read it, I wrote it, it was literally for personal trainers. I wrote it to myself, like in the past. So I wish I had that book to myself, because it was really my pain that I turned around and put it into the book to teach you literally what you need to do step by step. And that's what I just put in there because I felt horrible about what I did and I need to tell the world. So basically in the book, it goes through about that. And then they really need to just learn and then hire a business coach or hang out with people who have already made it in the fitness industry and they are successful owning either studios, fitness studios, or at least businesses that is somewhat in the service industry so that you can relate to them, but they have to be successful. If they're working in the business, here's the thing, number one advice, I believe, is that if the people that you are studying and they working in the business, you're going to end up working in the business as well. So you must study a person who works on the business instead of in the business because he will tell you how to do that. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. Don't believe the people that tell you you need to work in it and that kind of stuff because that is not true. That's what they bought themselves. Don't buy what they are selling. You can actually work on it.
Daniel, that's really good advice. And would you say, is it more beneficial to have a mentor or a coach that is from within the industry or outside of the industry, in your experience?
That's actually a really good question. Glad you asked that because I would totally forget about it. It's yes, definitely. So it would be great. I mean, the ideal is always, of course, if you find a person who have done what you want to do, which is kind of tough. But if someone is in the fitness industry, let's say my mentor would be, even though I don't have one right now, who is in the fitness industry, but if I would find someone who, let's say, opened up over 100 studios like Starbucks, but it's fitness studios, then that would be my mentor. However, it's not necessarily the best thing to have it in the same industry because the people who have created successful businesses, just let's go with my dream mentor would be actually Howard Schultz from the Starbucks CEO. He just actually stepped down. But the reason why is because he built basically the same thing that I'm building, meaning each of their studios, coffee shops are owned by the company. It's not a franchise. So that's what I want to do actually on the long run, to have all of them corporately owned, just like Tesla and Apple. But Howard Schultz, his leadership, I read lots of his books, his leaderships and how he built and how he cares about his employees and how he set up the whole business is someone who could 100% set up my own business. Just because it's in the fitness industry, it still has the same exact concepts and core values and everything than they do. So no, you don't need the same person in the same industry. You just need a person who have done what you want to do. And it's just basically a business. It speaks one language.
Now, I specifically wanted to tap into your knowledge about books and ask you for your top 3 sales book recommendations that every fitness professional should read.
I will start with the toughest one to read. And what I mean by that is that it's really a tough book to read. It's literally, if you don't like math, which you don't have to like math, but you just have to know it because that's the main language of business. But when I gave it to some of the CEOs who are good friends of mine, and when this book arrived, and it was like 10 a.m. at night, they would call me and they are like, "What the F is this? It's like a textbook." And it's actually, I don't know if you ever heard of it or read it. It's called Scaling Up by Verne Harnish. Or if I say his name right, yep. I might butcher his name.
I say Verne Harnish, but between the two of our accents, hopefully we're somewhere in between. It might be somewhere in between.
Actually, if I would have a picture, and for example, I have a giant monitor which is 32 inches, that a curved monitor, and when I pull up what I learned from that book, it's literally just numbers. So you get a headache, like almost like looking at Matrix. So what I learned from that book, from Scaling Up, how to really measure my business and literally just look at the numbers and nothing else whatsoever. When to hire, when to fire, when to buy something, when to not buy something, when to do this, when to expand. Literally just looking by the numbers, so easy. I can decide in like 5 minutes because I understand it from the book. It changed everything. So when I looked back, once I read the book, I was like, let's see if it's true or not. So I analyzed my whole past, even though you should already have it analyzed, but I didn't have it at that time. So I analyzed my whole past and I realized that I actually should not have done this and that, and it all checked out. It was correct. So I highly recommend that for that.
Wow. So Scaling Up by Verne Harnish, and it's all about learning how to read the numbers within our business.
Yes. And then the second book would be, of course, my book, just because it's a fitness industry and I have a giant sales process in it that was featured in a couple of magazines already, which is FitBiz. I would recommend that just for the fitness people. But for my third one would be the Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. It puts you in that mindset that you either just get by and do all right, so you become average, just like everybody else, or you really get obsessed about your goals and what you want to accomplish, and you really go after them. And it might not sound like a sales book, but it is sales book because he's nothing else but sales. So Grant Cardone is all about sales, sales, and sales. And if you Google it, who is the number one salesperson, he will come up as the number one salesperson in Google. And all his books is all about sales. However, it has that mentality that you really have to put the work into it.
And he's one of those examples of someone that's outside the industry, I should say, because we've had the amazing Casey Conrad on the show many times, who's obviously a sales expert and very well known within the fitness industry. But Grant Cardone is outside of the industry, and he deals with all different people from all different businesses, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And I might just jump back to your book, Fit Biz, Daniel. You mentioned that within that book, you've got a detailed sales process outline. So just to clarify, that is for fitness professionals selling personal training, or is that for fitness professionals selling gym memberships?
It's actually both. Well, it's mainly for selling personal training. So it's really about that part. However, the whole beginning part of the sales process is just really how to make a sale, not necessarily personal training or a membership. But since at our studio, we kind of have both, even though we don't have contracts, it just really had to get the person from body language, from language use, from word repetition, creating a connection, and all the way through from the first time you're meeting, the phone calls, the script, all the way down till the end you make the sale, and then how to remake that sale. So it's all the way from the beginning to all the way till the end.
Excellent. Complete process. Okay, so they are your top 3 sales book recommendations. Let's go on to marketing. What are your top 3 for marketing?
Okay, so you're going to like this. Have you ever heard of Blue Ocean Strategy?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's my number 1 and favorite book in marketing. And little sneak peek, I guess. So I reached out to them because I was like, you guys changed my business, my life, and I made everything around Blue Ocean Strategy, and I'm killing it in our market, and we are not competing. We are 100% in our own market because of you guys. And I sent them a long letter, and they received it, and I get a phone call, email, and everything from them right away. So the authors reached out to me. They sent me to their, I believe, coworkers. They pushed me through like 4 different interviews, or maybe it was 3. And then they interviewed me about the Blue Ocean Strategy. They probably wanted to figure out if I really actually read it and use it, which I did. So I passed, and they actually loved it. So what's going to happen is they're actually writing a giant article, as they said, and they're going to post it to their website where they have a couple of million subscribers to their blog. And they're going to feature us how we really changed our industry in this area.
So Daniel, that's phenomenal. Tell me, if you can, what would be the most important thing that you learned from Blue Ocean Strategy?
Oh, yeah. So it's really that you should not compete on the, let's say, red ocean or in the crowded market in the fitness industry. And I think we talked about this, but let's say, for example, in Tampa, we have 6 to 8 personal training studios in a 5-mile radius on the same street that we are. So as you can see, it's a very, very crowded market, and there is no point. Oh, and not to mention, I'm not counting the Medi weight loss clinics. I don't know if you guys have any of those, but we have all these, people trying to sell you pills. It doesn't matter, anything for fat loss or weight loss. You cannot really beat out those people or those companies because those are medical weight loss clinics. So they will spend $100 and $150 per click on every single one of their ads. So this literally just break you if you compete against them. So what you need to do is, and what I learned from it is that you really need to go and create your own market. So you go target the people who are unblissfully unaware that they need your help, which is about 95% of the market. And the good news is there's only 5% of the people, competition, who are targeting to those 95% of the people, versus if you compete against the Medivweight loss clinics and all the other studios, you have 95% of those studios, gyms, and every other personal trainer competing against the 5% of the people who are already on pain and searching for your services. So that's the number 1 takeaway that I got from that book.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so Blue Ocean Strategy is marketing book number 1. What about 2 and 3?
The second one it's a very old book. Well, I can't remember. I think it's like 20 or 30 years old, but it's the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. this is just an interesting book because, and I can actually just go over my bookshelf because I'm on headphones anyways and tell you exactly when it was written. But the reason why I want to say this because it's an old book and it's still relevant. And so it was written in 93.
93. Oh, it's not that old.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think of marketing, it's pretty old, right? I mean,
you're making me
Facebook
feel old.
or internet. So what I mean is they didn't have, Facebook or internet really at that time.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
fair call.
If you open the book, you have like the picture of the Apple II in the middle of it. You know what I mean? So it's a very old. I'm meaning like old technology. But the point is, in this book, it's if you want to know something about advertising, and they really show lots of companies in it, like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all these, and how they made it. It's a pretty amazing book, to show you how to understand actual marketing and how to really set up your marketing campaign at the basics.
That's great. That's a really important one, especially for people that need to gain a basic understanding of marketing to get up and running. So thank you for that. And book number 3 recommended for marketing.
And that would be, what is it called? I would like the word to buy a Coke. And I know if you're in the fitness industry, you might not like the title, but it's the reason why I love this book is because it's all about the CEO who was hired, Roberto, and I don't even gonna try to say his last name.
You're not gonna try to attempt that one?
Yeah, no, it's just pretty bad. But I believe he was from Colombia. This was a book that I read long time ago, and the point is that he was hired. He was a very hard worker. Nobody know who he is, and then eventually he becomes the CEO of Coca-Cola, and he changed everything about what we know about Coca-Cola. And at that time, it's good to know that Pepsi was taking over actually the whole market. And then he was like, okay, so I guess we cannot compete right now. So what we need to figure out is what people drink most of the day when they don't drink a Coke besides Pepsi. And then the answer, believe it or not, was water. So what they did is they created Nestle and, all these other companies and all the water bottles, Gatorades, and everything is Coca-Cola product. So what he did is he created all these lines and that's why the title called I Would Like the Word to Buy a Coke, because he literally, he didn't mean by Coca-Cola, he means just the cola product, which is literally almost anything on the market right now. So that's what they did.
Very, very interesting.
and it just really walks you through it. Yeah.
While you were just giving us a quick summary of that, I have Googled his name and I'm going to attempt it at Roberto Goizueta. Do you think I'm close? Goizueta?
I don't think so. Yeah.
How about we just stick with Roberto? I think we're right on that one. So I would like the world to buy a Coke. I've got the link here, so we'll pop that in the show notes. That sounds really interesting. So, Daniel, we've covered off your top 3 recommendations for sales books, marketing books. Lucky last. How about leadership?
Yes, my favorite concepts. So those are my favorite books. And my absolute favorite, that is the number 1. That I share anyone, and then I was just reading it and showing it to lots of people, is the Lincoln Leadership by Donald Phillips or something like that. And this is just one of those books that it really, really teach you the main concepts of leadership. And the number 1 takeaway that I would say from this book that I learned that I use every single day now is that I let my employees to come up with their own ideas. And then I let them, and I literally let them go with it, and just guide them through it, but keep them as their idea. So when they come to you and they say, "I have this amazing idea," and then you tell them, "Well, that's great, but what I would like you also to do this," then it's not their idea anymore. So you literally hijacked it, and they're not going to be as excited. So you need to just let them take that idea away, and you just guide them through the process. And then at the end, if they become successful, their idea goes through. Then you take no credit whatsoever. You give them 100% of the credit. But if they fail, you don't blame them. You blame yourself 100% as well. And then that just creates an amazing leader in their eye. And you set them up for success as well.
Thank you very much for sharing that one. So Lincoln on leadership.
Yes. And the second one would be The Radical Leap by Steve. It's the Faber, something like that.
The Radical Leap, yeah.
it's literally a must-read book to every manager, leader, or business owner because it's really easy and fun to read, and it's laid out strategically with a fun twist at the end. It's one of those things that this book is all about your OS moment. I don't know if I can say the S word in the show, so I'm just going to say OS.
Go for it. We had Sue Zimmerman dropping the S word all the time.
Okay, good. So it's your oh shit moment.
Thank you.
It explains you need that in life, in leadership, and without pursuing those moments, you just can't succeed in higher level. And basically that's all it is. And it's all about the radical leadership, the leap. It's actually about cultivating love, generating energy, inspire audacity. I just have a hard time with this word, audacity, I think, and provide proof.
Excellent. So, and you said that there's a little twist at the end as well.
Oh, it's a huge twist. I love it. I mean, I didn't see it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that intrigues me. That makes me want to read it straight away. Okay, so that's your first two. Tell us what your third recommendation is.
It's The 5 Temptations of the CEO. And the reason why it's my favorite, because if you, as a personal trainer, want to own your gym, you definitely want to read this book as you are about to become a leader, because just like the Lincoln leadership, you really need to lead your team instead of running the business inside. And I know it's tough, but this book is really go through like the 5 temptations that will bring you back into the business, or how you would manage the people, how you, let's say you finally stepped out and then you have like 2 trainers, they're amazing, and then all of a sudden they start messing up, so you're just going to like step back into training again, which is one of the biggest mistakes. And this book is just really walk you through it with an amazing story that you can live through. It's like the whole book is literally about a CEO who is about to have its quarterly meeting, and he is scared, really, really scared, let's just put it this way, and he's just hopping up on a train at night to go home instead of driving home because he needs some time to think. And then and I'm not going to tell the whole story, just a little basics. He meets with these 5 different CEOs on the train on the way home, and they just go through this whole process, and it's just really amazing because while you're reading it, you almost like reading about yourself. So it's a really good book.
Well, Daniel, this has been such a fascinating conversation. I know that I've now got a list of books that I need to go out and read. So I want to say thank you for sharing those with us, because I have no doubt that it wasn't easy to pick just 3 from each of those categories. We could probably talk all day long, and we may very well have to get you back on for some more recommendations in 6 months' time. But thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it's great to hear your journey that you went through and how learning and reading really changed your business around. And if anyone wants to check out your website, your business, and grab a copy of your book, where should they go to do all of that?
They can go to fitbizbook.com, and that's where they can see my book. Or they can just go to our main website, which is the number 4 letter U-fitness.com.
Excellent. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We've kind of been talking on and off for probably the last 6 months or so, and I'm so glad that we finally had the chance to connect. And congratulations on all that you're doing in the industry. And I look forward to continuing to stay in touch and hear how you go with achieving all of those huge goals that you've got for your business. So thank you so much, Daniel.
Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. And yes, I'm just as happy to finally get on your show. I listen to it all the time.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by Precor, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precor.com/fitness business podcast.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
I have a very special guest joining us today. It's the CEO of One Fit Stop, Jaron Azen. Hey, Jaron, how are you?
Hey, Chantal, going really well, thanks.
That's good. Hey, thanks so much for coming on the show. Now, you have recently come back from the Idea World Summit that was happening in Las Vegas this year. We spoke a little bit about the summit in the lead up to the event, but I kind of hit you up and said, hey, do you reckon you can have a bit of a look around and come back and give us a bit of a report on what's happening from a technology platform perspective at this year's event. So I want to say thank you so much for coming on and having a bit of a chat to us about that. Now, give us a bit of an overview. Tell us about some of your observations from attending the event.
So first of all, Idea World this year was fantastic. It had a decent turnout considering it wasn't in California where a lot of these events get, masses of people to it. In general, from my perspective, particularly from the technology realm, I took a few walks around the area and networked and spoke to a lot of people in the industry. And I guess that's why we connected to have a quick chat about what I'd seen and what we'd sort of discovered, new items, new technology coming out in the industry, and also kind of the support that's there already for different segments in the market and my observations around that. So I wanted to sort of just touch on first a personal training domain, the personal training space. And in terms of numbers of personal trainers that attended Idea World or sole operators or group instructors, they said there was about 70% of the 10,000 people that go to Idea World were small group instructors or personal trainers, which is a fair percentage of everyone walking around and also going to the education sessions. But what I found fascinating was there really wasn't that much support from a technology perspective or even product perspective for personal trainers in the industry. And I saw the value of Idea World for them mainly being the education sessions rather than anything on the floor exhibiting. And there was only like maybe one or two companies, Chantel, that really did cater to the personal trainer. There were a lot of course, business coaches and marketing companies that do work with personal trainers to help them build successful businesses. But from a technology perspective, there really wasn't that much out there supporting that database. And, we had a chat just before this, right? And we were sort of discussing a little bit why that's the case. And I think the general consensus amongst all technology companies in the industry is that there is always a want to support personal trainers and innovate with new technology for that particular database. But it's quite a hard one from a business perspective, and it's a challenge that I think a lot of businesses have to fight with all the time when developing solutions for personal trainers. And that is that personal trainers in general have to budget even tighter than facilities and studios, and can't spend a lot of money on technical systems, yet still require the same level of support and infrastructure from a technical system than even a mid-tier facility may require. And so you get this kind of catch-22 situation where we all want to support that database and we're doing our very best to support it, but at the same time, it's a hard database to support. And that's, I think, why we saw a very limited number of suppliers from technical systems or innovation in the personal training domain. From the marketing automation or emailing, generally you don't see support at these events, but we did at Idea by lead pages and drip. And that was a really interesting thing for me to see personally, that there was a generic marketing system trying to also cater to the fitness vertical, which was good to see.
So what's drip?
Drip is a really interesting marketing automation campaign. It's quite simple to use. It was only recently acquired, I think, by Lead Pages, which I'm sure a lot of fitness professionals, fitness businesses, owners have heard of before for landing page creation. And Drip just allows you to sort of send out automatic triggers, based on triggers, automatic emails out to clients, members to re-engage with the database. MailChimp and ActiveCampaign have a few similar features, but Drip specifically kind of positions themselves as an automation platform rather than like MailChimp, who sort of position themselves as a mailing platform, and they do have automation features. So it was good to see them there, and I think they did get quite a lot of interest because it is a valuable and simple tool for the industry to take advantage of.
So, Jaron, one of the other things that you're going to cover off today is giving us a bit of an update on any new marketplace solutions that you came across. Tell us what you found.
So I think in any tech industry or in the startup realm, you hear of these terms called the Uber for X. And the Uber for fitness is definitely chucked around a lot in the industry these days. And the analogy is trying to sort of be appropriated for our domain, but it's quite a hard one because essentially what it is a transitioned directory of services and booking of services into more of an engagement platform with reward mechanisms and things like that to try and promote rebooking and also to promote the personal trainers or fitness instructors to get their clients to rebook from these systems and book consistently. And so I've seen many of these systems both come and go, some stay, and try and build their space in our market to help expose fitness businesses, could be personal trainers, it could be studios, it could be gyms, to the general public, consumers out there looking for fitness services. And a lot of them to date have done that via Google. They've had some sort of a website, and then they've nailed their SEO and being able to expose the businesses that list to obviously anyone searching through Google. And about 2 years ago, you started to see the apps starting to hit the marketplace, where businesses could list themselves on these apps. Clients or consumers could come in and look and search for personal trainers in the area, facilities in the area, and book their services. And in the past, it was quite simplistic in the way they ran through the apps, where there was just sort of a 15 or 20% quite high fee that these businesses, so that the apps would take to allow these businesses to list for free but gain new clients. And the issue that they had was the rebooking through the platform, which didn't create sustainable marketplace solutions. And so now in the industry, it's transitioned to trying to reward both the client or member to rebook via these apps, and also reward the operator, the personal trainer, fitness professional, or studio, to promote them to rebook via reward mechanisms. And so, Chantal, that's just the transition I've seen into this place to try and create that Uber in fitness. But it's really interesting because I think Google's basically unraveling all of that now as well, because Google's got these, it's only just launched with a few companies now, but you can actually book classes and find services and pay for services directly from Google searches these days. So it's eliminating the need for any third-party directory service or even application to book for services. And then it lets these businesses interact with their clients and member base via the day-to-day management system like they normally would. It's just to try and promote those first bookings.
So, Jaron, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there. So what you're saying is I could go onto Google now. I could type in that I wanted to do a fitness class in my local suburb. And then are you saying then Google will show me a pop-up will come up that I can actually then go and book directly through Google, and it links up to my local facility?
Correct. So the software providers, it would be run through the day-to-day management solutions, like OneFitStop, for example. It's currently only available in the United States, but I know that they have intentions. They're just bettering the program in the United States to see the effectiveness of it. But the goal is that Google's going to become a platform that's going to allow people to book all types of services, not just within the fitness industry, and pay directly from Google. And that's already been publicly launched in the United States, being tested over there, and of course I'm sure will roll out internationally as they build out the stable infrastructure.
So from a consumer point of view, all they see is my local gym comes up, I want to book a Zumba class, here's the times that it's going to happen, and book and pay online.
Directly.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible that they can leverage such a widely used platform. In general, if you put yourself in potential clients or consumers' mindset, you're going to Google to search for a service. And you're going to search for a service also in an area. And so if they can display the results with the action items, the action buttons to book, you're eliminating all barriers to entry. You don't have to now download a third-party app. You don't have to go to a third-party website, search that website again for the location and the types of services that you want. You can do that filtering from Google directly. It's reduces maybe 5 to 10 clicks instantly.
So would a gym owner need to make any technology changes to their existing platform, or providing that they've got a solution like OneFitStop, for example, is that all taken care of?
So yeah, the once the infrastructure is going to be rolled out, many platforms will have it, but it will be run through those platforms that offer day-to-day and membership management services. So you're currently opening up your classes to be booked online. You could have that embedded into your website or via the mobile apps and things like that. And then there will be an additional option for you to put it up onto Google directly. And that will be at your discretion whether you'd like to do that or not as a business operator. But it's going to be straight directly integrated into these platforms.
As far as you know, is there any kind of fee associated to that from Google's perspective?
No, there is, as far as I know, not at all.
Wow, that is fascinating news. Well, thank you very much for sharing that update with us, Jaron. This has been brilliant. Is there anything else that you came across, that idea that you wanted to share with us?
Those are the main ideas that I wanted to share from the conference, and have a chat to you about that. I think it's just really interesting to see how big dominant technology corporations such as Google can also unravel things pretty quickly in the technology realm in around the world for a particular vertical, like in the fitness industry. And I think coming back to that first point where I mentioned, this to really support like personal trainers and even mid-tier studios, I think these big companies are going to have a large impact in lead generation, and then us, we have the responsibility, like One Fit Stop has a responsibility to provide a platform that's going to help these businesses also retain and interact with their membership base. And so I think we all got to play our part, but it's going to be interesting to see some of these larger players coming in and building generic solutions that just benefit our fitness industry greatly.
Thank you so much for coming along and giving us a tech update, Jaron. We'll talk to you again really soon.
Thanks, Chantel. Thanks for having me on.
Precore Quickfire 5.
This week's Precore Quickfire 5 guest is Bedros Keuilian. He's a best-selling author, speaker and business consultant. He's the founder and CEO of FitBody Bootcamp, one of the nation's fastest-growing franchises, and an investor in over a dozen companies ranging from software, digital ad agencies, and coaching and consulting services. Bedros, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Chantel. How are you?
I am very, very well, thank you. It's such an absolute thrill to have you on the show. And as I mentioned, we start every single show with 5 very important questions that we call the Precore Quickfire 5. Now, are you ready for these?
I am.
Tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
To serve.
And what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Exceed expectations.
What's a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
My gratitude exercises every morning.
Oh, I'm going to have to ask you about those. Can you take us through that?
Sure. Every morning I wake up and I don't meditate. I don't know how. And so I go through a gratitude exercise. It takes me about 5 minutes. 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. It could be the weather, the fact that I live in California, a beautiful home, 3 people that I'm grateful for in my life. And then I'll think about why I appreciate them, why I'm grateful. And then I will actually text message those people a appreciation and gratitude text. And it really helps me start the day off in a very positive and appreciative mindset.
And no doubt the people that you text appreciate that very much as well. That's a great morning ritual. Thank you for sharing that. And what's one book, podcast, or blog that you would recommend, and why?
I would recommend Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. And the reason is there is, I believe, no better personal development book than Outwitting the Devil, because all of the excuses that most people give about why their life is the way it is, that book absolutely suffocates.
We will make sure we get a link and pop that in today's show notes. Last but not least, why should our FBP family come back and listen to the main interview next week?
It's real simple. The reason they want to listen to the main interview next week is because I speak about the things that are in the trenches learned. These are not things that ideas or theories or things that I profess but don't practice. Everything I teach are things that I practice and have been proven with literally thousands of my private coaching clients and our Fit Body Bootcamp owners worldwide.
Well, Bedros, I've got to say, I am personally just so excited to have you on the show. And we've done something a little bit different for your main interview next week. So everyone will have to stay tuned for that. But I know that you're going to share some absolute pearls of wisdom with us. And you have amazing experience working with fitness professionals within our industry. And I'm so thrilled that you're coming on to share that experience with all of the listeners of the Fitness Business Podcast. So thank you so much for joining us today for the Precore Quickfire 5.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you for including the Fitness Business Podcast as part of your weekly professional development. I would love you to go on and share the show with your team. Just send them to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, and don't forget about all the resources, the links and the transcripts for today's show. They can also be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Plus, a list of all of those books that Daniel talked about today. They're all on the website. Thank you so much to our partners for their support and, of course, to our foundation partner, Active Management. Just go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for a free business development ebook. That's everything for this week. I'll see you next week. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.